Hi everybody, I am Dave Karger. I'm a host on Turner Classic Movies, and I can't think of a better way to spend my afternoon, so I'm glad that you're all here with us tonight, this afternoon, and you're in for a treat because not only are you going to hear from a phenomenal performer, but also one of my favorite people. So I have the great pleasure of bringing out an Academy Award nominee, a 2-time Emmy winner, and a 5-time Screen Actors Guild Award nominee, Patricia Clarkson.
I'm so shocked. I thought it would be an audience of one. My publicist.
I still would have done it.
Oh my God, thank you for coming today.
Great to see you.
I appreciate it. Thank you to the foundation. It's a great organization, and I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, so. I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks since you guys asked me to do this, so I'm looking forward to it. Let's start at the beginning. Let's go back. Let's go back to Child Patty. In New Orleans.
I sounded just like that. I came out of the womb. My
Smoky.
voice has always been below sea level.
Oh, that's so great.
Seriously, as a child.
Where did the interest in performing come from?
Well, you know, my grandfather was an actor. It was his avocation. He was an English teacher and a coach. But his avocation, he started Nord Little Theater, which is the New Orleans recreational department, and he started a theater there. So he was an actor, so I think he unfortunately died young. I never knew my papa, as we called him. He was a beautiful, stunning man, and Irish, and John Patrick Brechtel, and but I think somewhere probably in his blood it came into mine, is what I like to think. I have his Shakespeare book that, God forbid, I keep it close. I have a few things of his that I hold very dear. But in 8th grade, I took a speech class, and I remember preparing the speeches as though I was giving a performance. And Mrs. Morrison was like, "You're an actress." So through speech class, Mrs. Morrison, my 8th grade teacher, got me involved in the drama club. And I started in 8th grade, and I loved it. And I was one of the few actors who could be heard in the vast auditorium. So she was very excited to have me. One of my first plays I did was called Flipped. Feminist Liberation Idealist Party for Perfect Equality and Democracy.
That's ahead of its time.
It was so cool. It was 1974. Yeah. I mean, and we, Miss Shea, the drama club leader, she was amazing. So that's how it all started, and then on into high school.
Were you a outgoing theater kid or a shy theater kid?
I would probably say outgoing. You know, I grew up, I'm the baby of 5 girls. I grew up in a house of all women, and we shouted all the time. We were a very emotional crowd, the Clarkson girls, along with my mother. My father's still living, and he's still with us, and still has his 5 daughters and his wife, my mother, and it's so I think it was a very open and emotional and vibrant house. We were very middle class. We grew up in New Orleans. I went to public schools, and I loved it. I loved, I had a really remarkable childhood, and yet I tend to play people who have horrific qualities.
Thank God.
I'm not kidding you. I can't remember the last time I played someone just nice and kind and simple.
Well, thank God you have real life to go back to and make yourself feel good. No, and I think
that's part of the reason is I know what it is to have a good upbringing, and I'm grateful for the support and love of my parents, and it's still there, and my sisters. Till this day, they are always there for me.
After you went to university at Fordham, you went to Yale Drama School, where your classmates included, let me make sure I get this right, Dylan Baker was in your class, Chris Noth was in your class.
Mr. Big, baby, yeah.
Jane Atkinson was in your class.
The great Jane Atkinson,
and then
yes.
around the same time was people like Courtney B. Vance and Angela Bassett. I mean, it was like a big
yes,
time
and John
there.
Turturro was there. He tried to date me. I mean, there were, so many actors coming and going in the 3 years, that were were just departing and then coming in, and it was a great school, because, like when I was at Fordham, I was somewhat the leading lady, I was never really an ingenue. But I was, I did like Hedda Gabler and Betrayal, and I got to Fordham. I got to Yale, and Earl Gister, who ran the acting department, he said, "I'm going to upset your apple cart." He said, and he specifically cast us all against type. We would occasionally do the young, lovely lady, but he pushes. I played the bawd in Pericles. I played, I wore the largest, this big, enormous suit. I played like a 300-pound Cajun mama. I played an 8-year-old murderer. I played everything. And I did comedy, which I had never really been asked to do.
Wow.
And it took me on this amazing journey, as it redefined me as an actor at 22 to 25. And I suddenly realized, I don't have to always just have on nice clothes and nice hair and look pretty. I want to transform. I want to become something else. I want to take my body and my soul further. And I can do all those other things, but I want to play characters, great, rich characters. So it opened my eyes in a way that I was shocking.
Now, as you know, I have someone in my life that knew you in that time when you were at Yale, and the stories that I've heard, not to make you uncomfortable, Patty Clarkson was the superstar of Yale drama at the time, to the point where it was always...
I was playing an 8-year-old murderer and tap dancing. Right. I mean, my friend Dick Beebe, God rest his soul, but he wrote a musical adaptation of The Bad Seed, and so I was like tap 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 until he's bloody and dead. Da, 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 da. I mean, I sang, I danced. I do not sing. I can dance a little, but I mean, I was doing this crazy stuff, crazy.
Right.
So that's maybe why. I don't know. But
next Meryl Streep was a phrase being bandied about at the time at Yale Drama. Just saying. Now, but let's think back to the fact that very soon after finishing Yale Drama, you were cast in Brian De Palma's The Untouchables opposite Kevin Costner.
Yes.
How did that? Yeah.
That was cool.
Did that happen even more quickly than you had ever dreamed it would?
Well, I mean, I graduated Yale, and see, Yale now, there's film incorporated, but when I went to Yale 400 years ago, it was just theater. It was nothing but theater, and it was kind of beautiful. We studied classical theater, Shakespeare, Chekhov, Ibsen, and then very modern theater, and there were great writers there, and I met the great Richard Greenberg. He wrote Take Me Out and 3 Days of Rain, and he's still one of my dearest best friends, and so we were doing it was this just environment of theater. So when I graduated, I was lucky enough to get a very good agent out of Yale. I was very fortunate. Because we know an agent, Sam Cohen, signed me out of Yale. He came up to see me do a play at the Yale Rep. And so I graduated Yale with a very good agent, and we all know it's the battle. That's the battle, and I still sadly know actors still in that battle, and it just breaks my heart. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, If we could figure out a way that, actors it's getting an agent. It's just the most difficult thing to do. And so I had Sam, and I then did theater, and then I was lucky enough to be on Broadway, and House of Blue Leaves, and And then I got this audition. You know, I was starting to audition for movies and film, and I didn't know much. I did an episode of Equalizer, Spencer Hayes. Spencer! I played a murderer. Auspicious beginnings.
Yeah.
So then I don't know, I went in to read for The Untouchables with the great Lynn Stallmaster, that great casting director. And he said, listen, when you come back, don't look like you look. I said, okay. Mm. He said, yeah, you're just glamorous. You look New York. Remember, this is a Midway, this is, Catherine Ness. So he said, don't wear any makeup. I was like, no makeup. And he said, don't do all, just let your hair be natural and wear like the girliest dress, like the kind of so I went out and bought like an Umpier dress, like with flowers on it. I mean, I looked ridiculous. But I did it, and I walked in to meet Brian De Palma, and I opened my mouth, and I think he loved that I had this voice, but I looked a certain way, and he just laughed a lot. And I don't know, we just got on, and he read with me. There was a reader there, but he read with me. And then the next thing I knew, he flew me to Chicago to meet Kevin, because Kevin was already there.
And you had to miss a matinee.
I missed a matinee, okay. And then I flew back. And that's how it all started. It was remarkable, but I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never done a movie. And Brian had a reputation, a tough reputation, but he was so amazing to me. And let me tell you, this is one of my fondest stories as an actress. I was broke, I was out of school, loans, and I was shooting for a very short time as Catherine Ness. And he decided that I had to be in the courtroom scene. Now, it's literally one pop. But he said to Paramount, he said, I need her in the courtroom. You're just going to have to pay her to hold on for a month.
Wow.
I got an extra month of pay. Wow. It was life-saving to me. So cool. He was a beautiful. I have such a, and Kevin was dreamy, and it was a nice beginning.
That's great. When you think back on it, are you happy that your quote-unquote first big break in film was when you were 27 as opposed to 18 or 19, or would it not have mattered for you?
Well, I think it was just where I was supposed to be. I think I was meant to go to Yale to really find who I really was as an actress, and to really open my eyes, my body, my spirit, my face. I was kind of acting from the neck up, and I guess I was okay. I mean, I was like okay as Hedda Gabler. I think back on it, my senior year, maybe. But it became this whole experience, and I think I was better off starting later. I think it was meant to be.
The next year, you were in the last ever Dirty Harry movie, The Deadpool, with Clint Eastwood and Liam Neeson. Guys, go back and find the trailer or something. It's so 80s.
Yes,
so
it's
great.
So 80s.
Your hair.
My father was, my hair. My hair's kind of big today too, but my hair was just like, it was just.
Well, you were playing a reporter.
I was playing a reporter, and Clint Eastwood, he doesn't cast he casts off tape. So I just went on tape at my agent's office for him, or at the casting director. Who was the casting? And I got a call that he was casting me. And so I flew to San Francisco, and the first time I met him was in this restaurant by the wharf, and I was with the director and the cinematographer, and I was sitting this way, and the entrance was back here, and suddenly I hear screaming, women screaming. Oh my God, Clint! And I was like, and I turned around, and there he is. And he walked all the way through the restaurant, and I was like, it was cool. But yes, it was the last Dirty Harry. But I have a great fondness for it now. It's not I haven't really done a film like that since, but you never know.
That's so great. So as you're going to learn, if we were to talk about every project that Patty's ever done, we would be here until like Sunday. So I'm gonna cherry pick a little bit in case you're wondering.
Cherry pick.
So I'm very intrigued by the fact that you were in Jumanji in the mid-1990s as well.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, I don't know how much.
That was just
tiny, right?
Tiny. But no small parts. So, but it was a beautiful little moment, and I loved working on it. I loved that director and
Joe Johnston. Is that who it was?
Yeah, and again, I needed I went through a really rough time, you guys. Things were so yummy, and as we know, sometimes things do not work out. And I suddenly was struggling when I was hitting my mid-30s. I was kind of caught in I couldn't get a job, or the only jobs I could get were just not great.
Episodic TV in that time.
Well, I was doing more cable movies. I wasn't doing a series. I did one small stint on like a half hour. I wasn't very good on that. And I mean, we just have to admit, sometimes, we're just not, I just wasn't very good.
Did you have hope that things were going to improve? Because I did notice.
I changed, what?
Not in your acting, in your fortunes.
No, but you know what I realized? I mean, this is what we know, is that we can only fake so much as actors. And my heart was heavy every time I walked into that room, because I needed the job so badly. And I realized, because I was suddenly, I'd had things were so good and suddenly they were not. And I was at a crossroads, and I had to dig so deep. My mother, my sisters, I was dating this wonderful man at the time who was trying to help me, but I was really just drowning, I felt. And I changed agents, and that helped a little. And, but the little parts came here and there, and then I did this beautiful independent film called Pharaoh's Army, that if you ever can find and watch it, it stars Chris Cooper and myself before Chris was, and he is unbelievable in this tiny little film. It's called Pharaoh's Army. You have to see it for him. You realize why he's Chris Cooper. He's incredible. And that helped me somehow getting this beautiful little independent film. And then the big thing happened. I got High Art, and it just...
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, of course.
Lisa Cholodenko. When I speak at my alma mater at Fordham every year, I go to talk to I say, just play a German lesbian heroin addict, and your whole life will change.
Yeah, what was your reaction to Greta when you read that script?
Well, this is the thing, is because of you, I knew I was capable of all of these things, of all of these emotions and people that were not me. Sadly, I'm not lesbian, I'm not German, I've never done drugs, I've never even smoked pot. And how stupid am I? And so but I know what loss of love, and I know what love is love. I knew that character was in me. I knew it from the second I read it. I flew back. I was in LA struggling, and I was living in a friend's house at the time, and I flew back. I said, Ron, to my agent at the time, I said, I think there's something. I said, I know they're going to think like suburban lady, mom, Patty's walking in the door, but, and I knew a German accent because Richard Greenberg had this German agent that I used to talk to all the time. So I had Helen Merrill, her name is Helen Merrill, and she would call the house all the time and be like, how are you, Patty? And then she would sometimes be like, and how many cats do you have? So we would have these kind of odd, bizarre conversations. But her accent was in my head. And so I showed up knowing that my heart was in Greta and was 1,000% in Greta. And Lisa saw it. She saw it. She was about to make an offer to another actress. And she stopped and she offered it to me. And I started like 3 days later.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you had a feeling making you were onto something there.
Well, it was suddenly breath, and I had done this beautiful little independent, before with Chris Cooper, and suddenly, my body was awakening again, and in a true way. Suddenly, I was being taken to really bold and daring and dangerous places. Higher cliffs that you can. Fall. The Greta was a reach, but not really. It's interesting. It was something. It was so essential to me at that time, and it's amazing. How acting heals us. It does. It saves us, and it gives us. It gives us a life that we can't live without, and a life that we have to have, and when we're doing things that take us to places we're not sure we can go, but then we do. I'm so thankful. I'm always thankful to Lisa. Yeah. But I've told this story a million times, but I have to tell it again. So you might have heard I've told. So when High Art aired, when it played in New Orleans, my mother took my namesake, my great Aunt Patsy. She was like 80, to see High Art.
Oh.
And I said, Mom, and Aunt Patsy's born and raised in New Orleans. She's this wonderful woman, but she's like a New Orleanian lady, not lady at all. She's middle class, whatever. But anyway, she said, I said, you took Aunt Patsy to see Art? I said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She said, oh, Patty, she loves it. She's calling you tomorrow. She calls me. And she says, Patty Doan, if a director told me I had to play a German, lesbian, heroin addict, I would have told that director I can play one of the three.
So great.
I swear to God, it's my favorite thing that anyone's ever said.
Given that was your first Spirit Award nomination, High Art, it fits right in with Sarah's question in the audience. She wants to know, how has working on independent films shaped your career? Seems like it's been awfully important.
Well, it's given me a career that I would never have had. I love doing studio films. I love being paid. I like having a nice trailer. I mean, who are we kidding? I like having a bathroom. But it's completely defined me, and it's again given me the projects that have really nourished me and made me a better actor, I hope, and taken me to places, and just the great directors and actors I've worked with over the years, starting with High Art into Station Agent into Pieces of April.
Oh my God.
Pieces of April, Oliver Platt and I in that little station wagon. Oh my God. and we had to talk about no amenities. So, because Station Agent was shot for $500,000, and so that little station wagon that Oliver Platt barely fit in, but we'd sit in the front of that station wagon, and Oliver Platt, he's 6'5" or 6'6", he's huge, and just one of the most beautiful, kind, yummy, delicious men. Anyway, but we would sit, and in between takes, so Peter Hedges, the great Peter Hedges, would just say cut, and we'd sit in the car because we had nowhere to go. We were out in the middle of the woods, and we just sit our producer John would knock on the window of the car and hand us a sandwich.
Oh my God.
And we'd sit in the car and eat our sandwich, and then lunch would be over, and we'd just shoot again. I mean, it was a labor of love.
That's about as no frills as you could possibly get.
But Peace Station Agent was the same. But Piece of April and Station Agent were both $500,000 movies. So I shot them pretty much back to back.
Right.
So I just was like, I need a trailer. Please, next job, please. I can't. What did I do after that? I don't even remember.
Well, let's rewind a couple years, because there's a couple that we didn't get to that I really want to talk about. I want to talk about The Green Mile.
Oh,
because
God.
what an amazing character for you, and then that very famous scene with you in
Mr.
bed
Coffee.
with Michael
Mr.
Clark
Coffee.
Duncan.
Well, Michael Clark Duncan was, and it makes me sad. He was really a very, very beautiful man. And he touched everybody, and that's the scene. When I did the scene with him, it was with him. It was exactly who he was, and the fact that he's no longer with us is just heartbreaking. He was a really, really exceptional man and enormous. I remember there was a funny story about how Warner's was trying to get him, beefing him up. They would just send coolers of food to him. Seriously, they would drop off coolers of food for him, and he just. But he had never acted before. He was working for Con Ed.
I mean,
you guys, he was working for Con Edison, but he knew he was an actor, but he was just beyond lovely. Beyond, and that he gave me the scene. I didn't have to do anything, because he was just so dreamy. He was dreamy.
Given that a lot of what's really cool of that scene is what the effects artists were able to do with you see all it coming out of your mouth. What was it like for you, having acted it, to then see the finished product for the first time?
Well, I mean, Sam Rockwell's in it, and Sammy and I are dear, dear, dear friends. I worship Sammy, and I knew Tom Hanks, and there was this beautiful cast, but everybody was so good. Michael Jeter.
Oh yes,
Michael Jeter,
who's also no longer with us.
Who's no longer with us. It was just this, and I love the director, and it was just one of those experiences.
So Frank Darabont,
but it was brutal. Frank Darabont, he shoots a lot. He was tough. He was tough. It was a tough shoot because the special effects and 4 hours of that crazy makeup, because they built my face out. He wanted me to be as thin as I possibly could. I was starving.
Wow.
And because he just wanted me skeletal, he wanted me dying, and so it was tougher than I anticipated, but it was worth it because it's a very small part, but
it's pivotal.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little part.
Speaking of a great pivotal part, I want to ask a little bit about The Pledge that you made with Jack Nicholson, directed by Sean Penn.
I've forgotten about the Pledge.
And he makes the pledge to you at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, I know. That was crazy. I literally got on a plane, flew to Seattle. We drove outside of Seattle. I cried for 3 days and got back on a plane. I mean, my eyes were killing me. I thought everything on my body was just because if you remember, it's just this. I'm just sobbing and screaming and crying. My child is dead. Oh my God! I remember I hugged Sean at the end. I was like, "Fuck." Can we say it?
Yes, you can. It's YouTube.
Yeah.
You can say
it. Right. So I mean, it was brutal. That was truly brutal. But Jack Nicholson, he was actually very low key. I thought I was going to be intimidated, and I was secretly, but I was trying to not. I was trying to be like, yeah, hey. Yeah.
But it's Jack Nicholson.
But it was, Jack Nicholson.
The same year that film came out, you did 4 episodes on Frasier.
Oh, God.
As
Frasier's
love interest.
Yes.
and the character was friends with Jean Smart, and then but
she sets me up.
Yes. What was it like to kind of drop into that set so
I was
late in the show?
dropping back into live half hour, 3-camera half hour. And even though I have a theater background, live 3-cam, I'm not very good. I'm not good at it. I'm sorry. I'm just not good. I mean, I got better doing it's like I got through the episodes. I think I started to get some wind at my back, but I was really I felt swimming upstream. I'm just being honest. I struggle with that, and they were such a cohesive unit. They're all just brilliant. David and Kelsey, and they're all just whip it fast and amazing. And I struggled with that.
Right. Okay.
But I'm thrilled I did it because it was a good experience for me to really struggle with it and learn how to do it.
Here's a question from Sharon. And her question is, does your technique adjust from theater to film? I want to add TV in there too.
Well, yes. I mean, I think you're using slightly different muscles, but I think what I think is essential that it's always about the character. It doesn't matter the medium. It's always got to be that the character has to be in you, not on you. Even whether you're on stage, you're on television, in a TV show, or you're in a film. I think it's essential that that you do the work, that you do the homework, because you're going to be, caught with your pants down if you don't. You're going to be caught if you haven't done the hard work. The emotional life of your character has to be the priority, and it doesn't matter. I mean, all the look, those are all essential too. But a costume designer can save you, a makeup artist. But when you get to those scenes, when you get to that emotional life, if you haven't done the work, nobody can save you. Nobody,
Another film role that made a big impact, as I remember it from the year it came out, 2002, was Far From Heaven. And what a great, juicy part in such a phenomenal production.
Beautiful.
Todd Haynes
Julianne
channeling Douglas
Moore,
Sirk.
yeah,
I mean,
gorgeous Julianne.
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Haysbert,
Right.
gorgeous. No, it was just a cast of, and talk about clothes, and Sandy Powell did those clothes, and those did really help define you, because it was such a piece. It was such a. But again, I had a very real connection to Julianne, and that, I think as actors we have to use everything we can. The less we have to create and fabricate, the better things are. And so I had a genuine connection to Julie. She's very, she's beautiful. Yes, she is, and she's such a professional. And so we were two gals. We'd come together in those scenes, and boom, we both had done our homework. But I had a true adoration for her, and I felt close to her, and I think I just used all of that. What I felt for her as Julie, as the character, was all one.
And that was a banner year, because if I'm getting the dates right, that was the same year that you started on 6 Feet Under, which was such an amazing.
Is that what I did? Oh God. Yeah.
And that character of Sarah, this Topanga artist.
Again, hippie.
Right.
Like, I'm not a hippie. I'm a little young for a hippie. But I didn't care. No, I mean,
I missed that show so much.
It was, Alan Ball is a genius, and I got a, how lucky am I? I got a call that, Alan Ball wants you to come play Franny Conroy and Franny Conroy.
And Kathy Bates.
And Kathy Bates. When we were doing scenes together, they called us the Three Tenors.
That's great. Was it supposed to just be like one or two, or what did it become?
Well, yeah. I mean, at first it was like, you're going to play her crazy, whacked out sister. And I said, okay. And I mean, I'm. This is not false modesty or humility. It honestly was. It's some of the most extraordinary writing. I literally got this. We'd get the scripts, and I'd just be like. I mean, it was brutal. I would talk. Aunt Sarah, I should talk, and I always had these big, set pieces, and but I worked my ass. I did the homework. Because again, I was walking into a set of all these extraordinary, very established actors, characters, ready to go, boom, 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 and but the writing was just superb, and I, you just have to. You don't want to, get short. You don't want to come up short with great writing. It's a. All the great writers of the past will haunt you. They will come and hit you and give you nightmares. So I was just lucky.
Did it blow your mind to win not one but 2 Primetime Emmys for that character?
Yes, of course. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Are you kidding me? No. I mean, I remember I was so shocked. And I couldn't really even walk in my dress, but I didn't care because I said, I'm just gonna be sitting and then I'll but I remember I had to get up to the podium and I was the last award of the night, the first Emmy I won. I was the very last award and I looked out at the audience, I said, oh, thank God. I thought, I'm not receiving this award alone because I was still, people had stayed, but it was the very last award of the night. And then the second time I won, it was still very shocking, and which are always, it's very nice. It's winning an award. It's cool. It's cool.
Where are the 2 Emmy trophies right now?
They're sitting in my apartment. I have them in a nice little place, and they're not. You don't see them immediately, but if you kind of look up, and some people will be like, oh. They're very beautiful. The Emmy statues are and they're kind of beautiful together. You don't want. Yeah, you can't eat just one. Isn't that what they say? They're kind of. They're lovely. I'm very. Yeah, they're nice. They're nice.
This period of 2002 through 2004, you basically are an awards magnet because there's the 2 Emmys for 6 Feet Under, and then now we can catch back up to the year of Station Agent and Pieces of April because in 2003 you had 4 movies at Sundance, also All the Real Girls, and you won a special award for your performances in all 4 of those movies. What was it like for you just to take a couple steps back, just to even find out that 4 movies that you had obviously made in succession or over a period of a year and a half or something had all been accepted to the same Sundance? It must have been very bizarre.
It was bizarre. And it was, I did not sleep for a week because each film wanted me at, so I was going up and down, Park, what's the famous street in Sundance? You'd think I'd know it.
Right. It's Park
Main
City.
Street.
Main.
But Park City, it was just that Main Street. I was just, I was shattered, because Piece of April and Station Agent, and then I had All the Real Girls, and then I had Baroness and the Pig, this lovely little Canadian film I had done, but it was but it was also extraordinary. So, I just told myself I won't sleep for a week and I'll get home and sleep. Yeah. And
then, so obviously, Pieces of April, which we've talked about, is the movie that earned you your Academy Award nomination. Yeah. And I love the fact that this $500,000 movie, you get the nomination in the year that Lord of the Rings wins, Best Picture. And it just shows, that's what I love about the Oscars. It's this equalizer.
No, it is, and it's even more so. And I think the rise of independent film. It took a little bit of a dip. It was so hot, late '90s. Remember, things were just going guns, and then it dipped a little in the 2000s, in 2007, 8. I think financial, the crisis, and I think there was the investments in a lot of, independent film is at the mercy of distributors. And a lot of distribution companies folded, and it just kind of gutted the independent film world. And now, A24 and Bleecker Street and all these new companies are rising high and really saving. And independent film is as powerful today as studio films. I mean, they win more. They're the ones winning the awards these days.
Sure.
So it's a very exciting time. It's great for actors, and especially women women who aren't 25. It's there's great jobs to be had.
What are your remembrances of that Oscar night? As I said, Lord of the Rings was the big winner. Renee Zellweger for Cold Mountain won in your category. So kind of a leading role in a supporting category, but nonetheless,
which is something I think is
happens.
a bad thing that happens, and I think it's something we should, I wish the Academy would really guard against, because I'll tell you something interesting about that situation. A little-known producer named Harvey wanted me to go in supporting in Station Agent, because I had them the same years. I said, no, I'm supporting in Pieces of April, and I am the leading lady of Station Agent. It was a big, ugly fight, ugly. But I was adamant. I said, that's not fair, it's not right. I'm the leading lady of Station Agent. I'm one of the leads. I'm not supporting in this. It's not right, it's not ethical, it's not right, And I stood my ground.
And you got nominated for both at the SAG Awards.
At the SAG.
One for lead and one for supporting. And by the way...
Thank you, SAG, baby.
Right.
With they basically, no publicity, Piece of April was there, but they just shut,
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fights, we pick our fights,
Well, but you would have also run the danger if both of those had been in the supporting category, you would have run the danger of splitting your own vote.
There was no way, the station, it's like, how am I a supporting actress in the Station Agent?
Right. No, you're at the center of the movie.
No, I mean, it's just not right. Yeah.
I love Tom McCarthy, who wrote and directed The Station Agent. Of course, he did Spotlight, too. He just is such a sweet guy. I imagine he was amazing. A joy to work with. He comes from a big Irish Catholic family. They're all close. He's the most kind of normal man in this industry. He's now married to a stunning woman and has children and a great dog. Georgia, I think. And so, no, he's just this kind of, he's just this kind of wonderful man. I mean, he's brilliant, but he's so gregarious and so outgoing and so kind. I just saw him recently, and it's just always a treat to see him. Well, you just answered Jonathan's question, which was, what was your experience working on The Station Agent? So thank you, Jonathan, for that.
But Peter Dinklage and Bobby Cannavale, first, talk about dreamboats. And we were shooting in a Howard Johnson's. We were put in a Howard Johnson's on the highway. And that was all we could afford. And but it was that's one of those experiences in my life with the three of them, and Tom is shooting in this gorgeous area of New Jersey, and it was
Tom McCarthy has a part to play in the next movie I want to ask you about, which is Good Night and Good Luck, because he was an actor in that, of course, written and directed by George Clooney.
Yeah.
Beautiful black and white film. What was that set like?
Well, come on. George Clooney calls you and says, "You want to come be in my movie?" And what do you say? No. It was a dream come true, to work with him on this really powerful piece, this profound piece, and it was wonderful. It was, and he's very improvisational. He's very loose. I love the way George directs. He's very open. He's very, and he's a true egalitarian. That man sees everybody is the same on a set. Everybody is one. I've never seen anything quite like that. He was just and gracious and kind and funny, and tough when he had to be. But it's maybe one of the easiest shoots I've ever been on. Our set was built. It was all built at CBS Radcliffe?
Radford.
Radford. And it was just, we would just show up every day. We'd put on our little 50s outfits. And then we'd go into this world that he had built. And we had no sense of time or space. And it was glorious. It was glorious.
And that was one of 3 casts that you've been a part of that has received the SAG Award nomination. So Green Mile was nominated, Station Agent cast was nominated, and this one. Did you get to go? Well, the Station Agent, you were also nominated twice on your own.
I was there on Station Agent. I was like, I remember I was nominated for 3 SAG Awards that year, and they said, "Do you want to present?" I said, "Oh, please, God, no." I think the 3 nominations, it's enough. I think if I walk out, people might just be like, "Please, really, Patty?"
That's great.
Yeah, it was,
the next year, you reunited with Sean Penn, who directed you in The Pledge, and you played basically his mistress, I guess is the way to describe it, kind of, in All the King's Men.
All the King's Men,
and you got to film that in
New Orleans. I got to be home and film in New Orleans. It was fabulous. You know, I'm sad the film didn't do as well as we had hoped, but. And that was tough. That character was elusive. I struggled with that character. I remember, I thought, am I going to be able to, because it really wasn't on the page, oddly. And I had to dig deep. I remember I had to, and here I was shooting in my hometown, and I thought, oh my God, I'm failing in my hometown. But you start to, we're resilient. That's why we're actors. I just had to really trust myself more. I started to lose trust in myself. But then I kind of found I remember I found a different way in for her than what I had thought. So
here's a question from Valeria. Lars and the Real Girl is one of my favorite films. I love how you played the role of the doctor, the psychologist. What was your experience shooting that movie? She wants to know.
Again,
what a crazy movie.
And Ryan Gosling, and he's so brilliant. And, talk about the homework I had to do, because I had to be so, I'm quite lively. And I had to just readjust and become something so quiet and calm and centered. It's such a centered woman, unflustered, just stoic, and I had to really, in order to play opposite Ryan, and it was an incredible experience, and it was an incredible experience to watch him become this heartbreaking character, but not to let the heartbreak become mine, because that would have been Patty's heartbreak, but not the character. So it challenged me in ways that I was thankful for at the end, but in the time I was, But Craig is a wonderful director. I loved
Craig
I,
Gillespie.
Tonya. Yeah, I loved I, Tonya.
Oh my God, you guys see I, Tonya.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, he's doing great stuff.
But Ryan had a great dog too.
That's the trick, apparently.
People's dog.
I want to ask you about a film that I love called Cairo Time from 2009, a movie I love for many reasons. Now, not the least of which is that Patricia Clarkson is first billed. How had that happened many times before? Had it ever happened before?
Had it happened? I'm not sure. I probably should know if I've been first billed. but I'm not one who stresses over credits. I don't know, but Cairo Time was a chance for me to kind of step back into like classic leading lady mode, which I think is nice for us as women, as we, especially as we start to age, that we don't lose sight of just the power of our sexuality and our femininity and our, and so this was just a beautiful script. This wonderful woman who I'm fortunate to call one of my dear friends now, Rubinata, flew from Toronto. She's Canadian. She flew from Toronto, and I was supposed to meet with her for a half hour. We spent 3 hours together, and the next thing I knew, I was flying to Cairo. That was logistically different. Shooting in Cairo, it was gorgeous. The Nile at night. Oh. But it was tough, and here I was the only American in the cast, and so and this was George Bush was towards the end. I was worried I was going to be the ugly American. They put a Canadian. They put a maple leaf on my purse, so when I walked around, everybody thought I was Canadian. But that was I was treated beautifully. Nobody cared. Nobody was. The hotel where we were, it was a beautiful indigenous hotel, the Shepherd's Hotel, and it was one of the most extraordinary experiences I've ever had as an actress. It was beautiful to be there, and Alexander Siddiq, gorgeous man, inside and out, and just perfect for this part. And we just had to, if you've never seen it, I highly, it's one of my favorite things I've ever done, and it's really a beautiful love story, and it's very adult, and not that it's sexual, it's not that. It's very adult in that it requires a lot of you. It's calm and simple, and it's so subtle, this film. Subtle.
And you said classic leading lady. It does feel like a great film that could have been made in the 40s or 50s. It's except that it's in color. It's just really good.
It's really, and Cairo is.
Yeah. Here's a question I really like from Amanda Isley. She wants to know if you have any rituals or daily habits that you change or you stop or that you begin before you work on a role, and do you stay in character for the whole shoot?
Well, I mean, my rituals are just that private time, that very private homework, and I tend to work on a part. I don't like to look at the script too much. I don't want to think of it as words. I tend to extract something that sits in me, some part of the character that sits. It's a very odd process, but I don't want to look at the words too much before I figure things out, because I don't want them to be words. I probably sound really pretentious right now. I read the script and then I put it down and I put it aside, actually. But sometimes there's one line that I have that keeps coming back to me, and I keep saying it over and over again. It's a really weird thing I do. And like when I'm walking my dog, I might say it over and over again. When I'm maybe riding in the back of a cab in New York, I'm saying it over, and it just starts to help me define this character. It defines the life. I don't know why, it's just a process I have. And then eventually I'll come back to the whole script, but I start to think about what am I doing? What am I shifting inside of me? I think as actors we can play anything. We can do anything. We can play any character within us. We have to. We want to. We want to transform. But I think it always has to be as close to us as we can make it. The less that, I can be stoic and quiet and sullen. I can be, it's not my natural nature, but it is, of course, a huge part of me. I can be fierce, ferocious, unforgiving. Of course, these are all the things that we have to have available.
Is there someone you've played where you thought, oh, this is the closest to myself, demeanor-wise, personality-wise, values-wise?
I mean, sure. I mean, I think a lot of things, station agent, I don't think it was that different. I mean, there were a lot of qualities of her that were similar to me and to my life, to what was going on in my life. Certain man in my life. You use everything. We use everything. But it's probably, I hope there's a part of me in everything you do. I hope I'm not too far out from anything you do,
Because so many of these women you've played have just been, as you alluded to, just like off the charts, like
well, some
bonkers.
The one recently,
yeah, exactly.
Yes,
so we have reached this decade, and there's 4 projects that I want to talk about that are in this decade. The first one is Shutter Island. Because just to work with Martin Scorsese, and such a pivotal moment that you have with Leonardo DiCaprio there, and such a creep fest in the best way.
And I looked so lovely. I went with my friends. I went with my 2 dearest friends, and when I came up on the screen, he's one of my dearest friends, Ricky, and he was just like, I mean. I just said I'm gonna look. I knew, but again, it's not the transformation. She's in a cage. I said I just have to, everything has to go away. Everything that I value, hair, makeup, good lighting, it's all gonna go away. It's all gonna it's gone. It's just gone. It's gone.
But it's effective.
No, I knew it's where I needed to go with his character, and Marty again is so, he's the one of the greatest people on this planet, and again, I didn't know, he offered me the part, and I showed up, and hey. I mean, it's difficult. I met Leo, Mari, and you can't think that way. I just thank God I'd done my homework, and I'm like, we're all on the same. But Marty creates such a conducive environment to do the best work you can possibly. He wants you raw and in the moment and dirty and it's just you're just down and dirty, and he does a lot of takes, a lot of takes. I think I was still shooting it last week. I mean, it just, oh my God, I'd be like, we'd shoot like a page. I'm independent film, we shoot 40 pages a day, and we would shoot like a page. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going back into the cave again.
How about learning to drive? Because I love that film that you did with Sir Ben Kingsley.
Sir Ben, yeah.
I had the privilege of talking to you in front of the Academy, the 2 of you, for that, which was so much fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
No, that was a labor of love, you guys. This was this film I loved, this essay, this Cathapolit essay that I just worshipped. And I really wanted to make this film. And it was very difficult to make a kind of dramedy starring 2 middle-aged people.
In a car.
In a car. We went, people honestly would be like, do you have to drive in the movie?
No.
Well, we could call it learning to sit, or we could call it learning to walk. But no, but that was a labor of love. I loved the script so much. I loved this character. I loved Sir Ben's character, and he was very helpful coming on, and I had worked with him on Elegy. Remember I don't know if you've ever seen Elegy.
With Penelope
beautiful,
Cruz.
With gorgeous Penelope Cruz, and me, and I played Sir Ben's lover in Elegy. And so I knew him and we worked well together. Yeah. And he's very serious as an actor. He's a very serious actor. And I like that. Talk about someone who shows up ready to go, just ready to shoot, ready to do the scene. He'll talk about it a little. He doesn't want to overtalk. He doesn't want to, he doesn't care what you had for breakfast. He doesn't care that maybe you had a bad night's sleep. He doesn't care. Let's just do the scene. Let's get on with the work. It's all about the work. And he's also lovely and charming and fun when you go out, or, when you have a drink with him. But on the set, he's just consummate. And he is there for the work. And, I had been naked with him in Elegy, completely naked. So I knew him. That was my first time I was ever completely naked on a set. It was so crazy. That was hard. That was difficult. A lot of actors do that. It takes a part of it. It takes something out of you. It really does. But it's necessary. I think when it's integral to the scene, to the part, I understand some people don't want to be, and I get that. I don't think it's for us to judge. It's everybody's own decision. I made the decision because I thought, okay, this is it, and then I've been naked in every film I've done.
And on stage, and on Broadway, for God's sake.
So, oh my God, what was I thinking? But so anyway, so I knew him well, and so I had, I knew how we worked on Learning to Drive. So again, we showed up, Isabelle Coixet, gorgeous Isabelle Coixet. This was my third time I was working with her, and second time, because then I did the bookshop with her. But so I just showed up, and we had no money, no time. New York City, brutal, a noisy car. It was it was tough. It was tough, but I loved the script so much. I was not giving up on it. Right. I was not giving up on it.
This leads well into a great question from Christine, who wants to know, what actor would you say you've learned the most from?
Oh, wow. Oh, God. Well, I've just worked with so many, and I hate to...
Who's someone that comes to mind? Maybe it's not the person you've learned the most from. We're going to give that disclaimer. But someone that just springs to mind that you learned something good from.
Oh my goodness, you guys have done... I wouldn't know. I will tell you this. When I did Pharaoh's Army, it was my first real independent film, and I got to watch Chris Cooper work. And I still remember every single day of working with that man.
Wow.
But I was, 36, 37, hadn't been doing a lot of work, and suddenly I found myself in this beautiful little film in Danville, Kentucky, and Chris Cooper. And it really helped reshape me again as an actress. That I remember.
That's great.
That I remember.
House of Cards, just because I love the show so much, and I love Jane Davis.
Come on, Jane Davis. Come on, ladies.
Yes.
She's the smartest lady in the room.
Yes, she is.
Do not screw with Jane.
No.
Do not, because she speaks 47 languages, and she's got a super phone. She can get anybody on the phone, and she can have anybody killed at any moment.
And you got to be on a show with Jane Atkinson after all the years.
Jane, who was in my class at Yale. Amazing Jane. Jane was she was such a force at Yale, and she taught us all yoga. She was always trying to get us to do yoga, and I was like, okay. No, she would trust me if you ever ask her, oh my God, me doing yoga.
Did they bring you on to House of Cards and tell you that you were going to have this major role for 2 whole seasons, or did it grow?
Yeah, well, no.
The whole last season changed so much.
They brought me on when I got the call, first of all, I dated Campbell Scott for many years, and they said, Campbell's on the show, is going to be on the show too, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm a big girl now. We split 10 years ago or something, over 10 years. It was a long time ago. So they first asked that, they said, Campbell's on the show, and I was like, we're fine. And we actually had an amazing time together, and they said, and I have to tell you, I read the very first scene, and I never do this. I didn't even read the whole episode. I read Jane's entrance when she's like, do you have Advil? Like, wait a minute. She's like, She's like, do you have And I called my agent, and I said, I'm in. I'm in, I swear to God. And they were like, what? You're not gonna sit with this? Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean you're in? I said, tell him I'm doing this.
Wow.
And I don't know, I had this sixth sense, I had this feeling. I just loved the way, and then of course I read the rest of the episode and I was like, oh my God. And then every new episode I got, it was like, but speaking, when I had to speak Arabic and then this last time Russian, I was like,
she's too smart.
It can't be French.
It was great.
I mean, it was just, but again, everything of Jane was on that page. I had to rise to the occasion, and I mean that with all my heart. It was right there on the page, that great character. It was tough just because sometimes it was a lot of dialogue. But the second season I felt more, first of all walking in, to Robin and Kevin and, this formidable crowd of people who were all to Michael Kelly.
The best.
You remember that first thing I do to him in that scene? I'm like, sorry. It was intimidating. I was intimidated. I was very intimidated, to be honest with you. But that's what happens, thank God. The character overcomes our fears. Because if, I just worked my butt off on that train every day, taking that train, not every day, but taking that train and...
To Baltimore.
That train to Baltimore. I learned more lines on that train to Baltimore.
Okay, so now, of course, we've reached the moment where we can talk about Sharp Objects.
Woo!
So amazing. Adora.
Do you know how many people dressed up as Adora for Halloween in the West Village where I live?
God, that's so great. Did you see that?
I saw a bunch of, I saw someone showed me like a collection of Adoras at Halloween.
Fantastic.
I think they were all in the West Village.
Well, because they know you're living there, they're paying homage.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What was your reaction to reading the scripts and reading that character?
Well, I want to begin by saying, first of all, I'm thankful to Amy Adams. She's talk about a real beauty. She wanted me for this, and was adamant that she really, really wanted me to play this character. Maybe she saw something in me. And we were acquaintances. I knew her just socially. I'd see her at premieres or parties or whatever. And I adored her, and of course she's just a great actress. So I was, and Gillian Flynn is beyond lovely too. I didn't know her.
I worked with her for 15 years at Entertainment Weekend.
But I knew her writing, and I had this amazing conversation with her on the phone.
Oh, great.
Because Adora, I just said, well, I know it can be close to me in ways. I'm Southern, but I didn't grow up like this. I grew up very middle class. But I know those ladies. I do know them. They exist kind of all over our country, but in a particular way in the South. And even though this is Midwest, but it's where Kentucky meets Missouri, and it's a place I know because I went to camp in Tennessee, and I know that area of the country, and so I don't know. It was daunting to play Adora. I think it's maybe one of the hardest, if not the hardest character I've ever played. And it's difficult for me to say that.
That's saying a lot.
Because the complexity of her brought me up short at times, and the brutality and the just the lack of warmth at times, and the lack of it's at times almost a soulless character, and that's not nice to admit, but it is. And I think it goes against us. It goes against us as actors, as people, to do these things. It's not in us. It's not in us. And I mean, she is suffering from a very serious mental illness, but I think even outside of that, and Amy and Eliza, but in particular those scenes with Amy.
Oh, well, you sit
bathing Amy Adams. Oh my God. Although, we had to have some sense of humor about it, So I looked at her naked all day in a tub, and at the end of the day, I was like, "What you doing later?"
She is so great.
Oh my God! But Jean-Marc Vallée I've never worked with. He is the most wild.
Oh, he has a reputation.
Oh, he is wild and amazing in French, very French. It's like, he lights the set. It's like his DP is a magician. This DP comes in and lights the whole thing. He doesn't stop for lighting or anything. And you do that scene from beginning to end, beginning to end, beginning to end, beginning to end. You don't do pickups. You do it beginning to end, beginning to end. And it really does, you're just like, all day long you're doing scenes from beginning to end, beginning to end. But he was incredible in the truest sense of that word. It was what he wanted us to do every day, and the mountains he wanted us to climb, and he never settled. Never, ever did he settle. I've never seen anything. Certain day players that were coming in, I was always like, for them, because I'm not religious. I just, but I was always, because you had to come in and step into this mini-series with and he demanded the greatest of, whether you had one line or 10 lines or 1,000 lines or 1,000,000, he did not care. And in that way, it was kind of beautiful. He didn't, everybody had to be in the scene, know exactly what they were doing. Like, what are you doing here? What are you really doing? I'm not really sure. No, figure it out. You have to know what you're really doing here. Oh, okay. Are you really cutting the meat? Are you really, like at a big scene, what are you really doing? Everything had to be real. The water had to really be boiling, everything. And it was astonishing to work that way.
Wow.
And it made me a better actor. It just did. And it's what we want. But it took me a long time to recover from her. I never went back to New York as Adora. I never stepped foot as Adora in my apartment in New York. I just kept her here.
Yeah.
Kept her at the chateau.
Here's a question from Dawn Marie about Adora. She wants to know, how did you discover all the layers to her? What was your process with such a complex character? I'm thinking of the scenes where you're sitting opposite Amy, basically saying, like, this is why I never loved you. I mean, and with no irony or hesitation or anything.
I wish I could tell you exactly, but something does come over you. There is almost a chemical shift that took place for me as a Dora. Like something weird. I'm a little method, and I don't take a character home, but something happened as I was shooting, and so those scenes would come. I found them, as we progressed, they would come. They would be there. I didn't judge her. I had to take all judgment out. We have to love the characters we play, and it makes me sad because I had to love Adora in order to play her. I did.
Wow.
And it's brutal, but every day I had to be that person and love her and love whatever I could about her in order to survive, in order to do this and be exactly what I was supposed to be.
This is making you emotional. Were you able to keep that in check because Adora did?
Yes, and it was, and that was the hardest. It was just shifting all of my being and my resources, and I was left really with nothing.
And you played her for so long. This was 8 hours? How many hours was this? This is not just a movie, folks. This is 8 hours.
Yeah. No, and mixing these poisons and doing these, just doing things that are unconscionable. But that's what we do as actors. We play the people that make the stories, we want to see, and that's to all the women in the room, that was a miniseries led by women.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, we can't all be Wonder Woman. We'd like to be. We'd all like to look like Gail, but we don't. But I think whenever women are at the center of a story these days, we're winning. We don't have to be perfect women, but when we're at the center, we're winning. So.
What was your reaction to the end of Sharp Objects?
Well, I knew it was God.
When you learned, when you
read
when
I learned.
Yeah.
Well,
it's so Gillian.
It's so her, and it just, but I also felt like, it's one thing Adora didn't do, what I mean?
The only thing.
The only thing I'm not guilty of. But it.
I thought it was Henry Czerny the whole
he played,
show.
he tipped. Well, that's what he did. I mean, Jean-Marc was beautiful in navigating putting the darkness on every single character in that, and keeping it off Eliza as best as he could, and it's masterfully directed. It just is.
I want to end, we have a few last minutes, I want to end with these two questions that I really like from the audience, and I want to know if I say Nao or Nio.
Nio.
Hi Nio, I love your question. Nio says, you've had and still have a wonderful career. I'd love to know what tools have supported you most in your artistic creativity and your spiritual and mental health all these years.
This goes back to my family. My mother, my father, my sisters, my very dear friends have, I always say, if you have friends around you that don't support you in this business, it's too difficult to be in this business. We have too much, it's so subjective. We have so many people coming at us and making decisions that we are not a part of. What you need is the great people around you. They shouldn't be around you if they're not supporting you. I know that's difficult with family, but I think I have extraordinary support around me every single day of my life. I have incredible support around me. And that's how I've gotten through. And I've also, learned to kind of accept where I am and who I am and what I am. I'm not the most famous person in this industry. I haven't been nominated for 47 Academy Awards. But who cares? Like, I mean, no, it's nice to be nice. It's always nice. But I'm saying is, I think in the way I have a career. I have a very good career of what it is, and that I have to remind myself that where I am now is fantastic. It just is, and those are the tools I have to always, the mantras I have that I'll get through this. I'm now exhausted, because I have actually been doing a lot. These past 18 months have been really a roller coaster ride for me, and so sometimes we need other tools. But I would say I have love and support in my life, like a lot, and a great dog.
It all comes back to the dog. And here's a really great, simple in the best
Named
way.
Isadora Duncan.
Oh, that's your dog's name? A great simple question from Michael. In a long career, what sustains your enthusiasm?
My fellow actors. I mean, seriously, that's the thing, is that the idea that I'm going to go to work and work with great actors. Unknown, known, first job, second job, 50 jobs in, who cares? That's the exciting part, when we get to the set, and we're gonna work with like great actors, I don't know, that's what sustains me. That's the most thrilling part of it all for me, is the new actors I'm gonna meet and get to work with, and hopefully make me a better actor.
Well, I can't wait to see what you do next. And I want to thank SAG-AFTRA Foundation for having us. And Patricia Clarkson, thank you so much. Thanks to you all.
Thank you.